I'm getting the question, but Hannes, what is a wealth creator and how do you become a wealth creator? Now, a wealth creator is actually a very, very, let's call it a natural process. We were all born to be wealth creators. In other words, to have a life of abundance, and a wealth creator knows how to create, how to grow, how to preserve, and how to enjoy their life. And when I'm referring to life, I'm actually referring to how to enjoy their wealth. And wealth, if we look at the root word of the word wealth, it's well, W-E-A-L, well, which actually means well-being. So we were born to have this well-beingness within us. That is, and that's why I say we were born to have a life of absolute and total abundance. But we do not understand the skills that we need in order to get to that state of well-beingness, because our lives is basically a learning experience. It is to transform from a concept or an idea into the type of person that we want to be, and we have got the ability to create that person. In other words, we can design and create our destiny, and because we can do that, we can create and design a legacy. So we can leave something, especially nowadays with the internet, where we can do stuff like I'm doing at the moment, where it's a digital, we place it on the internet. It's almost like a digital tattoo that we are going to leave for generations to come. So it's really important, at least to me, to become a wealth creator, where I know that I can create the life that I want, that I can grow into being that person that I want, as well as on the financial side, on the in terms of what I want to leave to my family, and also to be able to enjoy those things, and then at the same time be able to preserve that. So let's get back to the question, but what do we need to do to become wealth creators? Well, the truth is that we don't need to do anything, because we were born as wealth creators. I became a granddad 2 or 3 days ago, and I saw that little baby there, and I know that she's a wealth creator. Let me tell you why. Because inherent within her genes, within her makeup, she's got one of the most crucial skills that she will need in order to become a wealth creator, and that is the ability to fail. And I want to repeat that. Unless you've got this ability, this skill to be able to fail, you will not become a wealth creator. It's going to be impossible. Now, it is something that is natural to us, to fail. You know, when she's going to grow up, no one is going to teach her how to read and to write and how to talk. She's going to figure that out 100% for herself, because when she starts, there's no textbook to tell her that this is the right way, this is the wrong way, this is how you pronounce stuff. She's going to listen, and she's going to try something, and no one's going to understand what on earth is she saying. She's going to blah, 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 right? And then she's going to try again, and she's going to try again, and then one day she's going to say, Mama or Papa or Daddy, and the whole world is going to go crazy. That is the world that's around her. And she's going to click something, whoa, this thing is working. And then she's going to try again, and it's not going to work out. And she's going to try again, and it's not going to work out. And she's going to try again until she starts forming sentences. And then she's going to start building on those sentences. But at the same time, what she's going to do, she's going to learn now how to use her muscles. But she's going to fail. I saw her little hand all over the place, and it's a natural process to fail. But we, as grown-ups, don't see it that way. Why not? Because of the damn bloody system that we're in. We are putting into a school educational system where they teach us that this is a mistake. You can't do it this way. And if you do it this way, then then you're not going to pass your standard or the grade that you're in. Now, that is taking away this natural creativity that we've got, this ability to learn, because we learn through failures, right? That's the way that we learn. Now, as we grow up, we can, through our parents and through our peers and through mentors and teachers, we can actually speed up the process. Because if those people teach us what is working and what is not working by examples, in other words, this is what I've done in my life, this is what worked, this is what did not work, therefore, based on this information that I've got, rather do this way instead of doing that way, because you're going to waste a hell of a lot of time by doing and making the same mistakes that I've made okay? And that is the way that we can learn. So we can learn ourselves through the ability to fail, or we can learn from someone else who has already paid the price by failing, right? So, and by doing it that way, we can speed up the process. But unless you are prepared to go out and to do this stuff and to build the competency. Now, what on earth is what do I mean with competency? Well, competency is you must have the skill, and you can't build a skill unless you've done things or someone else have done it on your behalf, and then you duplicate or you copy that. You must build the experience. There's no ways that you can have the competency. Competency comes through experience. So it's skills and experience. And then the third part is the applied knowledge. So all of these takes the ability, or you must have the ability to fail in order to experience this package deal that we've got, the competency. And the more competencies you've got, the quicker you'll get to your end goal. Especially if those competencies are stacked on top of one another. And that's the reason when a baby starts, they don't start and do a 100-meter sprint. There's a lot of failing that's going to happen before they can walk. And once they walk, then before they can really run. And once they've run, then before they're strong enough to really enjoy their bodies and to do a 100-meter sprint, as an example. Right, so we need to have that ability, and we must accept and we must embrace the ability to fail. Right, now, because of the conditioning, we as humans, especially grown-ups, and especially in certain cultures, we do not want to fail. And if you're not prepared to fail, there's absolutely no ways that you will ever become a wealth creator. So the trick in failing is to fail, and when we talk in terms of finances, is to fail and fail fast, right? So in the Rainmaker Starter Business, as an example, what I teach my students is you've got 90 days to start a business with no money. And the first 60 days of those 90 days is where you're going to build a canvas, and the reason for the canvas is to fail, to see what is working and what is not working, and that works based on that in order to develop the prototype. And that is not working, well, that's the learning experience. That's how you build the competency. So if I can fail a business before I've spent $1 million or $2 million or 10 million in the business and 10 years of my life, it's better to fail within a week than to go through 5 years or 10 years of my life and then to figure out, but I've never acquired the skill set, the competencies in order to run this thing. So if I fail, I want to fail as quickly as possible. And to do that, I can literally, that's how I designed the Property Pro investment system. Okay? The reason was that I've developed a system, and then I started applying that system to build the competency. So what did I do? I analyzed the property, and I saw that this property is not giving me my financial freedom growth rate. In other words, this property is not working. So technically, I failed. But without that knowledge, I would have bought that damn property. And that would have kept me stuck for the rest of my life, basically. And I would not know how the hell is it that I'm not getting rich. Okay? So by analyzing something and by seeing that this thing is not going to give me the outcome, it means that I fail. And that is something that I want to embrace and that I want to teach you, to fail, and to fail quickly and to fail often. Because once I saw that, the learning experience that I had, I started building these neural paths within my brain to understand that it's great to fail. Because this thing that I now see as a failure, and a lot of my students will come to me and say, Hannes, but we don't find the right properties. The problem is, unless you've got a benchmark and unless you can compare that to what you want, you will not know that this thing is going to keep you from becoming wealthy and becoming rich and have a life of abundance. So it's a massive privilege to be able to fail on condition that you fail forward. In other words, if I fail, it must be one step closer to success. So I analyzed the second property. That did not give me what I wanted. I analyzed the third property. That didn't give it to me, the fourth property. But in the process, I've had 4 experiences of stuff that would not work. In other words, I had 4 failures. And in those failures, I started learning something. I started learning about negotiations. I started learning about, what is risk. I started to learn, but how do I identify risk? I started to learn, how do I mitigate risk? And what if I do this? What's going to happen if I change the term? What is going to happen if the interest rate changes? And all of those skills starts to compile in becoming the competencies. So, but eventually, on the 133rd property, it's actually the 134th property, I found a property that gave me an infinite return on my investment. So I failed 133 times. Now, did I fail only 133 times? Technically, no. I failed a hell of a lot more because there are 27 variables attached to each and every failure. So in failing once, there were 27 variables. There were 27, let's call it, risks that led me to the position to analyze this property and to say, no, it's a failing. This property is not going to give me that I want. But in the process, I've built the competency. So the skill that we need to adopt, and the skill and the mindset, is that it's great to fail. But there's a condition. On condition that we learn something from that. In other words, what is it that caused me to fail? What is it in this property that held me back, or is holding me back from achieving my goal? Once we've identified that, then the process makes sense, because now I understand what caused it. In other words, unless I become aware of what keeps me from achieving my goal, I won't be able to do anything about it. And this is where the terminology that I use quite often, confoculate, comes in. In other words, if I'm confoculated about something, there's no ways that I can do something about it. It's better to be confused than to be in a state of confoculation. And confoculate simply means it's a mental state of mind when I do not know that I don't know what I'm supposed to know. And the problem is we do not know that we're supposed to know, because the moment that we know that, then it's easy. So if a mentor comes along and he or she tells us, listen, this is where I was at a certain stage in my life, this was my confoculation, this is my belief systems that I had, I saw that these belief systems would not give me that I want, so I've adopted something that everyone told me that it is nonsense, that it cannot work, but I tried it because I trusted myself, and it worked, and these are the steps that I followed. Then, guess what happens? We speed up the process. So, that's the reason why we want teachers. That's the reason why we want mentors and coaches. Those people that have actually done it. Not those people that tells us this is the way that to do it, and this is how great it's going to be, and this is how great I am, and blah, blah, blah. But they can't show you the results. And the results that they show you are results where they've never been in that situation. So unless you run a business, there is no ways, because the competency is in the business, okay? And for those people to become successful, they've made a lot of mistakes. So unless you're going to have this ability to fail, which I believe is one of the greatest skill sets that you can learn, on condition that you learn how to fail quickly and how to fail forward. you're never going to become a wealth creator. So we were born with this skill, and then we disregard the skill. The system told us that this skill is not working, and this skill is not, there's a right and a wrong. And the right is what they want us to understand. The financial system wants you to understand one thing. They do not want you to understand the risk. They do not want you to understand that it's the lower the risk, the higher the growth. They want you to understand, and that's why they promote this, the higher the risk, the higher the growth, because immediately you split the risk from the growth. You've got no control over the risk, you've got no control over the growth, and you are keeping all the risk. And the moment that we understand that, then we can start with this process that we need the right skill and have a system in order to manage those skills, and the ability to fail, I would say, is the most important skill that you as a wealth creator can have. Now, at the same time, as a wealth creator, the second thing that is natural to us is to have ideas. You know, when you look at a baby and you see all the ideas, especially a younger person that, when they start, it's the sky's the limit to them. There's no limits in terms of what they can do. But then we start telling them, no, you can't do that. No, that is not going to work. No, don't do that. No, don't touch that. No, don't do that. And then we put them in an educational system where they say, no, this is wrong. You can't do it there. Even if it's what they teach us is wrong, because it's part of the curriculum, unless they regurgitate that the teachers want them to give to them, they're going to fail. So then slowly that creativity, that ability to have the ideas and to create the ideas, a natural state that we were born with, suddenly starts to fade. It dies. And that's a pity, because I see it with grown-ups where they've got no ideas, because they've never supercharged this skill that they've got, the ability to create. The other day I stood in the first time that I saw my baby, or the first time that it was visiting hours, and there were a couple of people standing around Lara, and while they were standing there, I basically stood back, and I thought, here's this baby, and how many opportunities do I see from this in order to make money? How many business opportunities are there in this room right now? And I stopped counting at 23. So I saw 23 money-making opportunities in one situation. And this is what I want to teach my first grandchild and my second and third, if I'm going to be blessed to have grandchildren, more grandchildren. This is what I want to teach them. I want to teach them to take the responsibility, to be able to fail, right? And to see that failure as an incredible success, as long as they are learning from those failures. So I'm going to encourage them to fail quickly and to fail forward. I'm going to encourage them to come up with the craziest ideas that you can imagine. And then when they start to understand, I'm going to teach them a skill, and that is the skill of selling. Because that is another skill that we as wealth creators have that we don't want, because apparently society don't like salespeople, right? And I'm a salesperson. Why? Because I'm a wealth creator. Unless there's a sale, unless you sell something, there's no value that you can extract by not selling. Every single person, when I met Tanya, my wife, I sold her on the idea that I'm a great person and that I'm going to be a great dad one day and a great husband and a great granddad one day. I sold her that idea. Now, the only way that if you marry, is somewhere there was a sale. In your job, if you've got a job, there was a sale that happened because that person picked you over thousands of other people in order to do that job. But the problem is we do not want to learn sales. This little baby, Attila, she's she's a day old, and she's already busy selling. When she wants food, she starts to cry, right? So if something without, she hasn't got the ability to talk, to tell her, Mom, listen, I'm hungry. By simply crying, she starts figuring out when is it that the pants are wet, or when is it that she wants a food. So she starts using this natural born instinct that she's got in order to sell, in order to get. And this is a skill that I'm going to encourage her one day. And there are different ways to sell. You know, you can sell in terms of a one-to-one, you can sell in terms of many ways. But one of the most powerful ways to sell, if you're an introvert, as an example, is to write. You know, the sales scripts is immensely powerful. And yet I see people say, no, I'm an introvert, and because I'm an introvert, I cannot sell. That's the biggest bullshit that I've ever heard. I've sold more products and ideas and concepts on paper, and I can't even bloody spell, and I don't know how to use my grammar. But in terms of sales letters and sales presentations that I've done, I've sold more products and services than most people will in 10 lifetimes. Why? Because it's a skill that I know it's a natural skill, but now you start polishing that skill and you start learning and enhancing that skill by failing forward. Right. And that was basically my little message for you today. Okay. Let's quickly see what is it that I've done in terms of the feedback that I'd like to give you. Well, it looks like almost 32 minutes and at 133 beats per minute. So I thought I'll share this little bit of information. Maybe give me some feedback and tell me what are the skills, the major skills that you think that we must have in order to become wealth creators. And tell me or share with me any of those skills that you think were not natural, that we were not born with. If you think there are skills like that. Now, I know people are going to say, yeah, but internet marketing, we were not born with that. Well, I've got a surprise. If we really start thinking about that, the skills that we need to use in order to master internet marketing, those were the basic skills that I've just touched on, that we were basically born. So start thinking and start becoming creative and start giving me feedback, and let's see what we can do with that. Right, so I'll see you then tomorrow. By the way, if you've got anything that you want to discuss, or any topic or anything that is that you think that I can help you with, please be free to ask me, and maybe we can discuss that. Okay, see you tomorrow.